Well, thank you so very much. Hello, everybody. I am Nick Ori with DSD. I'm a senior implementation consultant for Sage Intacct. So today we are over your Sage Intacct uh, bank reconciliations. So if any of y'all have ever met me, um, y'all will know that I am the bank reconciliation nerd of the universe. Spent many years in corporate treasury. So this is kind of my wheelhouse. So we'll go from there. So I created a little bank of DSD bank statement. So this is just going to be kind of a demonstration of what you could typically see on a bank statement. Okay. So just real quick, looking at it, right, we're going to do a reconciliation for the month of May 2026. I have in here, typically you're going to have your beginning balance, any additions, any subtractions, so any deposits, and then conversely, any checks that have cleared your bank account. And then it'll tell you typically what your ending balance is. Another piece of it is going to be, here's your list of checks, here's your list of charges, here's your deposits. Typically, these things can go on for, I've seen bank statements that can reach 200 pages. So at any rate, this initial step that we're going to walk through is going to be just the very manual, tedious process of here's how, if all else fails, we can do a bank reconciliation in Intacct. Okay. Then we're going to switch gears and go into here's a little added fun thing that we can possibly get Intacct to do a bulk of the reconciliation on our behalf. So, as I said, this first one, it's going to be a very manual process. So what I've done is I've printed this actual statement out. I have it on my desktop, and the typical thing is you'll go into the system and go, okay, I've checked that off. I'm checking that off. Okay. So with that, we're going to flip over to Sage Intacct. Okay. So to get to your Sage Intacct bank reconciliations within Intacct, you can do it a multitude of ways. You could go to your checking account list, or you can go from, I'm sorry, I'll skip around, cash management, the all tab, and then you can go to your checking accounts or credit card account, savings account, but we're going to deal with a checking account today. Or you can go over in the middle part and it's going to have reconciliation, and then there's a bank link. Okay. So that one is very straightforward. You click on bank and it's going to take you to the screen. For right now, I'm going to go into my checking account list view. And here you're going to see all my checking accounts that I have set up in my demo environment. So the one that we're going to work from for this first round is going to be the test BAI bank account. And so from this list view, we can come over to the right and see where it says reconcile. So when we click on that, what's going to happen is it's going to automatically open this reconciliation page. Okay, this pop-up window. This is exactly where it would lead you if you had clicked in the middle for reconcile bank. The only difference is from that list view of the bank checking accounts, it's automatically going to have what that bank account is that you're reconciling. So you can always change that, right? You could go to, hey, I'm going to switch gears and do a different bank account, right? So just keep that in mind. You can. So our statement ending date for this is going to be 053126. And my ending balance from that PDF that I showed just a minute ago is 1924.28. So I'm going to key that in. All right. The other piece of this is attachments in Intacct. I love doing an attachment, especially on a bank recon. It's my favorite thing. So with any, just like all the other attachments throughout Intacct, it's a drag and drop feature, or you can go browse for that file. So in this instance, I'm just going to drag and drop over my PDF bank statement. Oh, I haven't completely set that up yet. I am so sorry. That is, ooh. All right, we're not going to get into we'll just go save. All right. So sorry about that little snafu. So at any rate, so I have my bank statement. I love adding bank statements to reconciliations if you're ever audited, or if, CFO, any C-level controller, anybody wants to see, hey, I want to see the bank reconciliation. in bringing in the attachment of the bank statement, it's all in one place. So gone are the days of you having to now show them the bank reconciliation from your ERP and then also go into the bank login and downloading that statement again. I love bringing in that as an attachment to where it's all in one place. And we'll review that here in a minute. All right, so my statement, the other pieces of this is my statement beginning balance. That's based on my last reconciliation, last reconciled date, reconciliation status, blah, 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 on and on and on. Okay. You can do bank feeds and so on and so forth, but we're not going to worry about that right now. So with this, I'm going to hit continue. All right. So from this, I have, here is all of my entries, right? So I have, the system is going to tell me on this very basic reconciliation, here's my unmatched number of transactions. Here's the unmatched amount. Typically, if we don't have bank feeds or whatever connected, I've already connected my bank feeds. Typically, you would not have this bank unmatched transaction piece or this bank tab down here next to Intacct, but there's nothing in it because it's not actually connected. So just throwing that little caveat out there. And then there's going to be, your next column is a matched checks and debits and your matched deposits and credits. So you have a beginning balance here showing that it was 0, your statement ending balance, that's what we keyed in. Book balance, that's your general ledger balance, right? Does the math on it. And that's why we have an amount to reconcile of 1924, 1924.28. Okay. So a couple of things real quick to show you in this is going to be the filters within Intacct for the bank reconciliation behave a little bit differently. I am not the biggest fan of them. I will be honest with you. So on Sage Intacct, you'll see down here at the state, we have, it'll default to an unmatched. You can toggle to matched or all if you were so inclined. What I would say to you on this is it's, well, I'll get to that in a minute. I'm going to leave it as unmatched for right now. Your transaction types. So it's going to default to all. You can select checks and debits, deposits and credits. I prefer to select one of them. Okay. And work from that because that's typically how your bank statement is laid out. It's going to show, here's your deposits, here's all your checks, right? Separately. And you typically will do those in that order. Okay. So from this, I'm going to click on checks. So here's the thing that kind of drives me crazy is when you select that, you do have to hit apply filters. Okay, so we have to click apply filters for our list view down here to show these are now just the checks and debits. Conversely, if I select deposits, I have to hit apply filters. So that's one of my things. I kind of like being able to select one and go abracadabra, it's done, right? But nevertheless, that's not how it works on here. So just keep that in mind. One thing that I did come across actually last week during a bank reconciliation training that I was doing is if you have a lot of checks, right? Let's say, y'all issue just thousands of checks a month. Typically you would have multiple pages. I think the default list view on this screen is 30 lines. And so if you have a lot of checks, it becomes a little bit cumbersome clicking next page, next page, next page. What you can do is you can go to your more actions and go down to your table size, and you can tweak this from 10, 20, so increments of 10, all the way up. Oh, it went away. All right. All the way up to 100 rows or all rows. I am hesitant to say all rows because if you're cutting thousands and thousands of checks a month, or if you have thousands of checks that are outstanding, is more to the point. If you go all rows, typically the system, it's a web browser version, right? It's going to take a while to load. So be cognizant of that. So typically I won't go above 100 rows. In this environment, I only have 11 checks, so it's not going to be able to be demonstrated necessarily. We can go 10 rows and I'll show you. So it dropped it down to 10 and I would have to page over to the next one check, right? So sometimes can get a little annoying. So just food for thought there. So I'm going to put that at 100. All right. So I have my bank statement. I know from that bank statement, the first check that I have issued is check number 5600 for $250. So again, remember, this is going to be a manual reconciliation that we're performing here. So from this, I can check that. When I check it in the selection menu, my debits increase to $250 and it says selected to match is 1. So what Intacct's going to do is as you check these off, it's going to give you a running total of what you have selected. The next check on my bank statement was check number 5601 for $1,500. And again, you'll see that that's reflected in the selected matched and the debit amount. And then the last one that I have a check for is check number 5610, because as y'all know, not all checks are going to clear in the same time frame. Okay. So with that, what I want to do, let's pretend that I have just a whole bunch of checks, right? And 5610 may be somewhere on page 5. Okay. If you'll notice, you do have windows that you can click into, and these are filtered windows. These are just like any list view that you have in Intacct. You can start keying in 5610 here and hit enter, and it's going to filter that for you. I don't know why my LastPass is doing that, but anyway. So at any rate, so you key in 5610 and it's going to filter for that. You can do that on the amount. You can do it on a payee. All these different selections here are a filterable field. Okay. So again, check number 5610 was on page 10 somewhere. So I filtered for that. I'm going to select it because I know it's on my statement. And now I've got it at 4,250. Okay. Now, if I wanted to clear this, I delete that out, hit enter, and it's going to go back to my full list view. But it is going to reflect that I have selected that 5610. I haven't done anything with it other than select it. Okay. So those are all of the checks that I have on my little statement. I'll flip back over to that real quick. I only had 3 checks that I had cleared. So there's that. We're going to get to the analysis fee here in just 2 seconds. So from that, I feel confident that I've identified all the checks that have cleared for this statement. What I like to do is then I like to clear those transactions because I am now at what I would consider a stopping point, right? I've cleared all my checks. And if you have hundreds and hundreds of checks, it's nice to get to that stopping point and go, I know if all else fails, my checks are correct, right? So from this, I'm going to clear. And now it brings down the list a little bit more, and my amount to reconcile has inflated quite a bit. Okay. So now I'm at 6,174.28 to reconcile. Now, the flip side of this is I need to clear my deposits. So I'm going to switch gears and go deposits and credits. And here I have my 2 deposits that were on my bank statement down here, 2,000 and 42.50. So I have those 2 selected. I'm going to clear those. Now we're off by, on your amount to reconcile, you're off by 75.72. What that is the analysis fee, right? So I didn't preemptively, I know all of y'all can attest to this. There are times when you're doing a reconciliation and guess what? Somebody didn't enter something in. Typically that's an analysis fee, could be an EFT that is automatically drawn from your account, or any other web-based payments that maybe AP did, or payroll, or anything like that. So there's always things, right? So with that, what you can do, lovely little feature, is from your more actions, you can do a add interest and charges, create a journal entry, manual payment, other receipts, make deposit, so on and so forth. This list is going to change based upon what permissions you have. So if you do not have the permissions to create a manual payment, you're not going to see it. If you don't have permissions to pay bills, you're not going to see that. But if you are a reconciler and you have the permissions, you should be able to select add interest and charges. So this is one of my fun ones. So I'm going to click that. And it's going to have a pop-up window, right? And so it's going to say what that default account is. Okay. And I'm going to go 053126. That's the date of it. And so you can populate in a document number, description, reference number. You can even do an attachment. So on bank fees, analysis fees, you'll have your monthly analysis fee statement from a bank. Believe it or not, they do produce those still. You could drop and drag what those fees are associated with it. Okay. Your transaction type. So we are defaulting to a service charge. You can change it to interest earned. So if I change it to interest earned, my GL account down here goes to interest income. If I switch it back to interest charge or service charge, I apologize, it goes to bank charges. So this is found in the bank account setup. There's a portion on the first screen down at the bottom where you can designate what the GL accounts are for interest and service charges. And all that does is that gives you a default GL account here when you're populating this. So from my amount, I'm going to go 7572 here. My department's going to be 100. I hope I have so many dimension relationships set up in my demo environment. I hope this posts. But at any rate, so that's what my analysis charge is. And I'm going to say save. All right, so I hit save, I go over to my apply filters and I'm like, well, what's going on here, right? I need to refresh. So when I refresh, now I see that bank charge down at the bottom. Okay, so if you use a more action and you're doing interest charges, any of these options, once you've posted those, and if it's a journal entry, if you have approvals, you'll need to have those approved. Then you can refresh your bank recon. So don't refresh the entire browser, just refresh from here. And so what that's going to do is that's going to give us our 7572. I'm going to select that and clear it. And abracadabra, our amount to reconcile gets to 0. Once you, and only once you are at an amount to reconcile as 0, that is the only time you will have the ability to successfully click reconcile. Okay. Reconcile is permission based. So I want to throw this out to you. If you have individuals that are actually, doing all the legwork, checking the checks, marking them off, saying, yes, this cleared, this cleared, this cleared, that horrible, mundane task of that. You can give people permission to do that piece, but if you want to have a final approval, you can reserve and say, hey, none of y'all have the ability to actually hit reconcile. So while it's not an approval workflow, it's a workaround for it. So you can restrict down who can do it. And then that one individual, director of treasury can come in and go, I'm going to review these and then I'm going to hit reconcile. Okay. So since it's at 0, I feel safe on reconciling. At any point before I hit that, you can hit save. So if you have a humongous, what you gonna do, Hickey? Bank recon, right? And you need to get with payroll to enter in something, so on and so forth. You can hit save and it's going to save where your progress is. Okay. So from here, I'm going to hit reconcile. And it's going to say this pop-up window will always populate. Successfully reconciled the account. Thank you very much, Intacct. And then when you click on OK, what it's going to do is it's going to open up your through this real quick is you have your statement balance, you got your deposits in transit, which means did I have any deposits that had not cleared? We didn't. We cleared all of them. Outstanding checks and charges. Well, we did have outstanding checks, right? And so we have an adjusted book balance and the reconciliation of that. So when we come down to your deposits, you'll see 2 columns. You'll see these are cleared, or, oh no, highlight, go away. Or you'll see what's in transit. Again, I already said we didn't have any deposits in transit. So when we look at the checks, we will see that I selected those 3 checks, 5600, 5601, and 5610. And then I did have a test for the bank analysis fee. So those are all showing as cleared. And then it shows a list of what your outstandings are by those check numbers. Okay. This is just a PDF report. You can print this out after the fact. Okay, so I'm going to close this and it's going to take me back to this reconciliation screen. Well, I'm done. Another little annoying thing in my world is I have to close that and I have to hit cancel. If you hit home from here, it's going to give you your changes may not be saved. And when you're doing a huge bank reconciliation, that makes me a little nervous when it does that, right? So, but you can hit leave and it's going to take me out. All right. So what I wanted to point out to you was on the cash management on the bank reconciliation histories. So you can get to the reconciliation histories, again, two different ways. Under your reconciliation menu, you can go to view your reconciliation histories. When I click on that, it has all of the bank accounts I've ever reconciled, just listed out. It is a list, so you can do a filter on them, okay? However, another thing that potato here is from your checking account list views, you can go to your reconciliation history. When you do that, it takes you basically to the exact same list view, but it's already got it filtered for that specific bank account. Okay. From this, you see the little paper clip over to the left. That is the attachment. That's the bank statement that I had attached to this reconciliation. So when you have your auditors come in, anybody else, I have the bank statement associated with this reconciliation, proving that I actually know how to check a box. Okay. Additionally, from this, you can do that recon report. You can do it as a CSV, Excel, or PDF. And so it's the exact same report that we just looked at. So you can get back to that report. Those of y'all that are coming from Sage 100, this is a game changer for me. When you do a reconciliation in other systems, if you don't print out that reconciliation report, you never can get to it again. In Intacct, you can replicate that report. Outstanding items report. So this is if you had to do unclaimed property, escheatment, whatever the case in those dormancy periods, you can go to your outstanding items report, click on CSV. We're going to open this up, and then it's going to have the reconciliation basically, but it's just going to have your list view of here are the checks that are outstanding. So for your escheatment, if you have a lot or unclaimed property, depending on your knowledge basis there, so it's escheatment or unclaimed property, they're interchangeable. With that, you can reproduce what that file needs to be to do your due diligence, and then inevitably report those to the state. Okay. All right. Love that. All right, we're going to get to that spreadsheet here in a moment. One other thing that I want to mention is there is a reopen function to this. So the reopen is just, it's very similar to your closing your books, your sub ledger and or your general ledger, in that if you can reopen this bank recon that I just did. Let's say I checked the check was for the same amount. You had multiple checks for the same amount, but I checked the wrong check number. And now I want to be really precise in what I'm doing. So I need to reopen that, check the right check. If you've gone 6 months before you realize that happens, if you reopen the bank recon from 6 months ago, it is subsequently going to reopen all the bank recons between those two periods. Okay. So before you do that, I highly, highly recommend you printing out, saving, doing something, Excel, whatever, your recon reports, so you can get back to what you have to do, because you will have to go through all those reconciliations. Okay. All right. So that, I talk really fast, even though I'm from Texas. It is what it is. That's the manual process. That is the tried and true. You can always go in Intacct and select some boxes and end up getting to zero. There's an additional way. Well, there's two additional ways. There's bank feeds, and then there's a bank import transaction. So I'm going to show you the bank transaction import real quick. Okay. So I have a second bank account, believe it or not. I have a second bank account that I've set up. It is identical to the one that we just had, with the exception of the entries that are made. So, on this last bank recon, we had to make an entry for the analysis fee. But for those transfers, those $4,250 transfers, those were already booked for us. In this other one, we don't have that. So I'm going to run a GL report just so y'all believe me. 3026, and it is for 1004. All right. So just to show you, all that I will have. Oh, they are booked. I didn't delete those. I thought I deleted them. I'll go delete them real quick. Oh, it fired off already. Okay, I know what happened. Sorry. So so here's a funny thing. I've done this webinar many times. Typically, I'll try to import a recon file while I'm on the webinar, and that has never worked out well in my favor. So what I did is I preemptively imported in a bank file, which I'll show you here in a minute. Because I preemptively did that, Intacct went ahead and did some things on my behalf. So if you'll look at this journal ledger report, you'll see where I have a journal that's BF. That is not boyfriend. That is bank feed. That is a journal code that I give for anything that I want the system to create on my behalf for the banks. Okay. So you'll see right here, the 7522, the 4250, and the $2,000. Those are a different journal entry than the GL entry that I populated for the checks. The system created this. So if I click on this $2,000, you'll see the system last modified by the system. Okay. So just want that abundantly clear. The system can do these things for you. So let's look real quick. I am going to go to my cash management and my transaction import files. From this, you'll see I have this first line here. It says 6 is completed. Yes, the one before it says 6 deleted. So that does tell you if you delete out your journals, you can delete these files and start back from scratch. Okay. But the nice thing is you can import in your bank transactions on a monthly, daily, weekly, whatever interval you want. There are templates that you will find within Intacct. I am not going to go through that on this because I've always been met with failure when I try to go there. Okay. I guess I could show it to you real quick. All right. So add, and you're going to select what bank account. So I'm just going to select a bank account. Doesn't matter. Continue. And so from this screen, we're not going to go through this in depth, but from this screen, you can open import file guide, and you have different CSV files that you can utilize to import in your bank transactions. Intacct does utilize on the bank transaction import templates, CSV files, or Excel files. Don't trust the things down here that say QFX, QBO, OFX, or certainly if anybody's ever worked with me, the BAI2 files. Don't believe them. They're not true. So at any rate, if you have questions about the populating those, please reach out to us at DSD and we'll be happy to assist you on that. So I have a file imported in. One of the lovely things that I like when you import in a bank transaction file is you can go to cash management all, and now under bank transactions, if I click on that, it's going to list out the bank transactions that I imported in. So another place to go, right? So I don't have to go to the bank and go, hey, what happened here? I can see that's what I've imported in. It'll give you what in that file. So I'll show you the file that I imported in. Here's the simplest of simple files, right? My checks were all negative. My bank fee was negative. My deposits were positive. I gave it a date, gave it a check number if it had one. That's the extent of what I created. And so with that, what you'll have is it's going to show you, here's what you brought in, Nick. Here are the transactions. You can start searching those. You can search on your description to make your what's called a bank rule match or create a little bit more robust. I'm not going to go through those match rules right now. Okay. Just know that they exist. The other lovely thing is there is a match sequence also. So I have designated, hey, I want Intacct, when you do a reconciliation and you're matching these, I want you to give it a document sequence. The lovely thing is you can then take that match sequence H and compare it to Intacct's match sequence H for the Intacct transaction. So all I've done is imported that file in. I have not gone into the reconciliation file at all. So with that, I am going to go into that reconcile file just to show you the added little, so it's a test recon and I've got it populated already, blah, 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 blah. So we're not, again, you can drag and drop the attachment. We're not going to keep going over that. So I'm going to hit continue here. And the lovely thing is you will see that your matched checks and debits and your deposits and credits are already done. Your amount to reconcile is 0. Now, this is a test environment and I really, really small, but nevertheless, I like to think that with bank match rules and create rules, you can get roughly 90% at least completed with a normal bank reconciliation before you have to actually intervene on its behalf. So when we look at this, we go to that bank tab We're going to switch this over to matched. We could do all. Before I do that, a draft matched is if you had journal entries that on your transaction, if you had Intacct creating those on your behalf, or if you had them say the journal entry saved as a draft, Intacct will go ahead and match those, but it's going to list it as a state of draft match, which means somebody needs to go in and post those journal entries before you can complete the recon. Okay, so we're going to look at matched real quick. I'm going to apply that filter and abracadabra, look at what's here. These are the bank transactions, right? So if I go to match, up top part is all this is from the bank feed or bank import. Okay, match two transactions, those are intact. So what the system did is I have a rule created that says, hey, Intacct, if you see a transaction that says bank fee and you have not found it at all in Intacct, go ahead and create this entry for me. So Intacct did the actual journal entry on my behalf. Okay, it just like we did in the first recon, we hit the bank fees for the 7552. Here, I had Intacct do it for me because I don't want to have to enter that. You can put in all sorts of criteria for those create rules as well. So I typically will say, hey, on a bank analysis fee, I want to put a ceiling on it, right? I want to say, hey, if my bank fees are typically, $400, I want to put a ceiling of $600, which means Intacct, as long as the bank fee amount is less than $600, Intacct will create that journal for me. If it exceeds that amount, it won't, which means I will have an issue when I'm doing my reconciliations, because sometimes, if you have a lockbox, whatever with the bank may charge you a huge amount at some point. You may want to check with your bank at that point. So keep that in mind. We're not going to go into the create and match rules, but I just wanted to demonstrate to you, hey, look, my bank recon for this second account is complete. It's done all the things I wanted it to do. It created these transfers on my behalf. Again, if you're interested in that, which I highly recommend, reach out to us. We can give you guidance on how to set up create rules and match rules and all the fun things that'll help you get through a successful reconciliation. From here, since it is 0, I can click reconcile. And same thing. Same story, second verse, same song, second verse. That's what it is. And then if I go into my reconciliation histories, you're going to see those 2 recons, the BAI file that we manually did, and then this test recon that we just completed. Okay. And so I tried to go as fast as I could. I knew I ate up the whole 30 minutes, but that is basic reconciliations in Intacct. You do it those 2 ways. Bank feeds, those are more of an advanced conversation for us to have.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Nick. So just like how we said, we are at the top of the hour. So if you had any questions, please feel free to reply to any of the emails that you received from us, or you can reach to marketing@dsdinc.com. And thank you so much for joining us today. And again, we're here to help you, and have an amazing day. And thank you so much to you, Nick.
Thank y'all.